This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And you might notice, Ricky, you got a little bit of bass in your voice, and that's because if I go a certain volume or a certain kind of excitement with my voice right now, I squeak and I squawk.
Which is fun.
I sound like a bird. Or nothing comes out at all, which is also fun. So I apologize if I sound a little bit weird, a little bit bassy right now, but today's a fun day, Mark.
Yes, it is.
Mock draft day for the onside kick, which if you're new to the podcast, this is where we talk about everything, and I can officially say it, pro football, because we have talked about the AAF.
We sure have.
We have talked about the NFL. This is your pro football podcast, and like I said, today we are taking a look at our mock draft 4.0. We did 3.0 in the NBA. We're 4.0 here on the mock draft NFL side. Before we get into it, make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. That's where you can go ahead and support us. And also, at the $10 tier, if you support us there, you can join a podcast each and every month you're at that tier. Talk about what you want to talk about with us every month you're at that tier. So go ahead and check that out. But Mark, we're not going to let the people wait. How we do it, we split it up into 3 segments, 1 through 10. Then we have, 11 through 21. I should probably have this by now. How many years have we been doing this? And then 22 and 32. But we're going to go into our top 10 to start. We will have you read yours off first. Take it away. Number 1, the Cardinals take
Nick Mosa, defensive end out of the Ohio State University. And this was a time where I got to put it out there. If I really was with these, top couple picks, can I just do something else? But it makes too much sense.
I almost had them go Quinnen Williams. I almost did.
It's just, this has just been so obvious for so long. But anyways, the 49ers going with Josh Allen, the linebacker out of Kentucky, not the quarterback. The Jets then are going to go with Jonah Williams, offensive tackle out of Alabama. The Raiders going to go with Greedy Williams, the cornerback out of LSU. The Bucs now with Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle out of Alabama. We got at number 6 the Giants with Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback out of the Ohio State University. Then the Jaguars going with Kyler Murray, quarterback out of Oklahoma. He's going to play football. At 8, the Lions going with Rashawn Gary, defensive end, Michigan. Now we got at number 9 for the Bills, Marquis Brown, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Screw that injury. The Broncos going to go with Byron Murphy, the cornerback out of Washington.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it, and there's a couple that you and I are kind of spot on with, but there's also some where we got some differences, and we'll start off with mine. That first similarity, the Cardinals at number 1 take Nick Bosa. Like I said, I wanted Quinnen Williams here. There was a part of me that's like, you know what? Should they take Quinnen Williams? Because really they could take anybody, but I'm like, you know what? Nothing kills in the NFL like quarterbacks and pass rushers, so they're going to go with Bosa number 1. Then the 49ers are going to do the same thing. They're going to take a pass rusher in Josh Allen. Then the Jets at 3 go with Quinnen Williams, BPA, off the board. Then the Raiders, they will get their pass rush that John Gruden said that they needed, Rashawn Gary, the defensive end from Michigan. Then the Bucs at 5, they're going to go with a pass rush. Notice a trend here early in the draft. Clelin Ferrell, the defensive end from Clemson, off the board at 5. Then at number 6, our first quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, out of the Ohio State University, will be our first quarterback off the board. Then the Jaguars will take Jonah Williams, the offensive tackle from Alabama. The Lions will then go Greedy Williams to bolster that secondary, the cornerback out of LSU. Then at number 9, this was a tough one for me because they could go wide receiver. They could also go to protect Josh Allen. They will take Juwan Taylor, the offensive tackle out of Florida. And then rounding everything out, the team that just got their quarterback in Joe Flacco, the Broncos, take Ed Oliver, defensive tackle out of Houston. And there's a ton to unpack here. The first thing I'm going to throw a curveball at you. A mini one. This doesn't have to be a huge spender. The Bills have been like an anomaly for me. Like, do they go wide receiver? Do they go offensive tackle? We're going to talk about him later, but I just wanted to make sure why you get this out now. Why'd you have them go wide receiver over offensive tackle?
For me, it's going to kind of come down to, I think, whichever one they feel like they can get the best out of. And there are some quality offensive linemen in this draft where I feel like they can probably get somebody later at the offensive line position. I do think there's a bit of a drop-off when it comes to some of these top wide receivers to the next ones. So to be able to get that top weapon, and yes, I know that Josh Allen is that guy that's got the arm and he can sling it, so he needs some time, but he's also pretty athletic. He can move around, he can make it work. I think he can survive if you don't get the top one, which they couldn't anyways. Jonah Williams was already gone. He was off my board. But he can survive a little bit on his own. But yeah, I mean, because of his arm, I think he just needs a good weapon to throw the ball to.
Yeah, and that's just one where we didn't have that planned. I just, right off the top of my head, was like, you know what, the Bills, it was a little conundrum for me, and why I said, hey, let's protect that quarterback rather than
I usually agree. I usually say protect the quarterback first,
especially
then give him something.
Like, I saw something on Twitter from Pro Football Focus where they said, like, oh, he had a really bad rookie year by the numbers.
All the rookies did pretty much.
Does he even bounce back next year? You bounce back by protecting him. But the true thing I want to start off with is the man, the myth, the legend, Kyler Murray. And this is a guy who, after the Dan Patrick Show interview that you and I talked about, that people in the comment section were like, guys, you're blowing it out of proportion. There was a terrible interview. Way that it was that bad. It was that
miserable.
Bad. The thing I want to ask you, now that Kyler Murray is committed to football, does this change anything? And where do you think is his best fit in the NFL?
Well, it doesn't change anything for me, and partially because I had him in the exact same spot last mock draft. Still 6 or 7 actually to the Jaguars. It makes sense. To me, he's the second quarterback off the board. He's got potential to kind of get in front of Dwayne Haskins. But, you know, you've got some of those other things that are out there. You've got the short part. He's got small hands, which, of course, you know, combine needs to happen still. But the hands, the interesting thing that people like to compare him to, there's other short quarterbacks like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, but the hand size comparison doesn't really add up between those guys. So that does matter as well. But anyways, not to just talk about some hands all day. One of the big things for me with Kyler Murray is it doesn't change anything for me. I still don't trust him that he actually has his mind made up. To me, it was just, hey, you need to say that you're going to go play football because you need to get the chance. And that's all it is. It's he needed to say the right thing at the right time, so he said the right thing at the kind of right time.
After that interview of like, hey, Kyler, that don't look good.
When people were picking apart the fact that he didn't even have an NFL agent yet, he got an NFL agent. I'm sure that this all kind of comes together for that, where they're saying, hey, if you want the chance for this big payday right now, you got to go for it. Even though he could probably get tons and tons of money. I mean, seriously, we were just talking about it because we're in Chicago. You know, we're talking about the difference of the White Sox were only willing to go to $300 million. They didn't go to $350 million.
There was a thing of, I heard with incentives, it would have been $325.
And people were saying they needed to guarantee $350 million. So the whole point of that argument is just the fact of like
a luxury tax, folks.
Right? Is the NFL can get him a lot of money right now. Baseball will get him a lot of money later. So I don't think that this is still made up. I don't think this is a done deal yet. I mean, Kyler Murray even has the opportunity to pull a John Elway and say, well, you know what? I don't really want to play for the Giants, so don't draft me because then I'll go play baseball. He has the opportunity to do that still. Or any other team. If he just says, all I want to do is play in Jacksonville. That's the only place I'm playing. So Jacksonville, draft me or I'm playing baseball. I still, as a GM, don't actually trust this guy.
See, and if you notice with me, I had Kyler Murray out of my top 10 because for me, I feel like if I knew for sure that the Jags were not going to get Nick Foles, I would have probably had Kyler Murray to the Jaguars.
And that's a big part of it, too.
Like,
it's the fact that, in reality, that's probably the actual answer.
I was like, let's be honest. The Broncos have already traded for Joe Flacco. The Jaguars are now going to get, everything's lining up for the Jags to make a move.
It just hasn't happened yet.
Well, and the reason why it hasn't happened yet is because we got to wait for the Eagles to franchise tag Nick Foles, because Nick Foles told them, yeah, I am declining that option. They said, all right, we will do the same. And they're going to franchise tag him, and then they will work out trading him, if that's the case. But, I mean, for me, that is all going to change, because the Jaguars are a team that I'm thinking about where they are the crux in this. Where, to me, I think the Giants, unless something happens at the Combine and Kyler Murray blows us away, I think that Dwayne Haskins will be the first quarterback off the board. Because not necessarily of oh my God, he is the guy, he is the number one. No, he's just a safer pick.
He's a better pick than Kyler Murray's going to be.
And the thing with Kyler Murray, and I know people have said oh, you can't compare this, and yeah, I'm going to, is I kind of see a little RG3 in Kyler Murray of, yes, we haven't seen anyone at the quarterback position as fast as Kyler Murray, but all it takes is one hit. After one hit, how is he going to be? And I'm not saying that first hit in the league. I'm saying one DB, one linebacker,
RG3 made it all the way to the playoffs.
Exactly. Knocks him out, concussion, and he's going the other way. And that's not just his height. His frame, he's a smaller guy. Where the funny thing, and I will ask you, we'll play this game for the Combine. I've got 2 over-unders for you about Kyler Murray. The first one, when we get his official measurement, over-under 5'10". Over-under even at 5. We'll say 5'9.5".
If it's 5'9.5", I'm saying that's right where he's at.
You think so?
Yeah, I think he's going to come closer to 5'10" than some of us might think.
I'm going to say under. I think he's 5'9", 5'8".
I think he's 5'5".
I don't think he's going to be I say 5'9.5" though, because if someone's no, he's going to be 5'10", well, obviously that would be over then. The other one is, to me, the more important one, and this is what I can't wait to see from Kyler Murray. What's his 40 time? And the over-under that people are setting, over-under 4.3. What do you think? Because there are people that are saying, oh, he'll be just over at 4.33. And there's others that will say, no, he's going to be 4.28.
No, I don't think he's going to be under 4.3. I would take the over on that. Not by that much, but I would take the over on it.
Yeah, I'm thinking a 4.34. I'm going to go one over that 4.33. But that's the most important thing to me, is how quick he runs at the Combine. Because if he runs a 4.2 whatever, doesn't even need to be a 4.20, a 4.2 whatever at the Combine, people are going to fall in love with him. And he's going to be an instant top 10
My
pick.
problem with that then is if I'm a team and I see that, I go, awesome. You're going to play wide receiver.
The Lamar Jackson issue?
That's what I would do immediately. So, he actually honestly should pull Lamar Jackson.
Wait, why is that? Why is that, and I just thought about that now, is last year Lamar Jackson coming out, everyone's oh, he's a wide receiver. And he's I'm not running the 40 because I'm not a wide receiver.
Smart move by him.
Why are we not saying the same thing about Kyler Murray?
We should say the same thing about Kyler Murray. We absolutely should. There's no reason why we shouldn't, because Kyler Murray...
yes, Kyler Murray has a little bit better quarterback arm talent than Lamar Jackson, but still...
a little bit more success than Lamar Jackson had in college, too. And a little bit... he played at a bigger school. He was a bigger name. But really the big thing when it comes to Kyler Murray is... we didn't have a chance to have that discussion because we were worried about, is he even going to play football? The discussion with Lamar Jackson, that's all we had. But I do think that he does run a risk like Lamar Jackson did, and that's why Jackson decided not to run the 40. If he does too well at those things, people are going to go, great, I would love to have you as my wide receiver. You know what I might be looking at if I'm one of these teams and I saw Chicago? That Tariq Cohen, he's looking pretty good, and that guy's short.
Yeah.
Low center of gravity, right? Maybe I can get you to play running back.
Well, and that to me is, I'm going to go back to the original question because I feel like I haven't answered it. The best fit for Kyler Murray, I don't know if there's a best fit. Whether it's
the
baseball?
Giants. Is that what you're saying?
I'm talking football. I'm not even making the baseball jokes. But the Giants, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, and Redskins, I'll throw those 4 out there. I don't know if there's one team that is like, yes, that is the perfect place for Lamar Jackson, or not Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. See, you put Lamar Jackson in mind now. All I can think
the
about
wide receiver thing
is Lamar Jackson. But like, I look at it, and the thing I think about out of all 4 teams, and I don't know if this is just a stereotype of the quarterback who runs, which one is going to have more bootlegs, more designed kind of options and runs for Kyler Murray? And for me, I'm going to spoil this pick for my second segment. I think if I had to pick one of the 4 teams, it would have to be the Dolphins. And the reason why I say that is that's not even true. No, I second guess that because I've totally forgot. Adam Gase is not there anymore. You got Brian Flores now. So
yeah.
I don't even know. I don't even know if there's a best fit for Kyler Murray. Maybe it's the Cardinals, who we don't even know if they're going to, like...
They're not.
Kingsbury said, yes, I will. Then he said, no, he's not. Obviously, he shouldn't. He's got Josh Rosen. But, I mean, I don't see any team being like, yes, this is the perfect fit for Kyler Murray. Or is it a situation of just he could fit on anyone because he'll make any of those 4 teams better?
You know, I don't know. I think he would make any of those teams better because of his athleticism.
You tell me Blake Bortles is not better than Kyler Murray?
Oh, no. I mean, if I'm making a team, it's obviously the Jaguars because the Jaguars are on a just much better caliber team than any of the others.
That defense he can keep that defense off the field.
Exactly.
And if they go back on the field, it's because they scored points too quick enough, not interceptions.
But really for me with Kyler Murray, and you mentioned Cliff Kingsbury, so this is the thing for me is he came out and everyone's like, oh, he made the perfect quote that size doesn't matter when it comes to Kyler Murray. And I sit there and I'm like, his height, I don't really care about his height, whatever. The height thing is usually kind of overblown. Although there is a valid point that a quarterback who was 5'8" probably isn't going to make it in the NFL. It's probably not going to happen with the big boy lineman up there. But they're ignoring the other things when it comes to Kyler Murray. Like, yes, he might be 5'10", and that can be fine. But they're ignoring the fact that he's under 200 pounds, which for a quarterback can be an issue. To take an example with Lamar Jackson's about 215. So he's got
also
about,
like, what, 6'3"?
Yeah, he's got about 20 pounds on Kyler Murray. And the reason that matters is exactly what you said at the beginning. It's the hits. It's those, those times when you got to get back up. That's what matters for that. The other part of it, too, is it's the... to give another comparison, I'm trying to look at the weight for Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson's a closer height. But the other part of it, too, is the fact that, and Russell Wilson, 215, same thing as Lamar. So it's that size. It gets hit. The other part is, like I said, it's that hand size. We got to see that because that's going to matter in the NFL. And I know that I make the joke all the time of, let's talk about some hands. Let's talk about the hand size. That's what we care about in the NFL. But it does actually matter.
For quarterbacks?
Matters for quite a few positions. There's a reason why they look at it. But it does actually matter as well, especially when you're talking about the size of a quarterback, and especially when it's an athletic quarterback who has to hang on to the football. If you look at the freakish hand sizes of people like Russell Wilson or Drew Brees, these other short quarterbacks, you would think that hand belongs to someone who's 6'2", not someone who's 5'10", 5'11". So I do think that the combine will tell us quite a bit more about Kyler Murray. He's going to get drafted high. He's going to be able to do things in the NFL. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting for sure. Kyler Murray would be better off, I think, if a guy like a Justin Herbert was here in the draft.
And if I'm not mistaken, hand size is when they take from the pinky to thumb. Baker Mayfield, who was just drafted last year, this was at the Senior Bowl. He was measured.
Baker's what, 6'1", I think?
Here it is right now. Here's the scouting combine. At the scouting combine last year, Baker Mayfield was 6 foot and 5/8, 215 pounds, a hand size of 9 1/4, 9 1/4. So, I mean, that might be, not an exact, like, him and Kyler are the same.
But maybe there's a comparison.
But there's a comparison because, like, 6 foot, only 2 inches taller than 5'10". And that 9 1/4, if he's got a hand like that, then, okay, it can work because that's what it did for Baker Mayfield. But let's be honest, like, as long as he can sling it, he can sling it. My biggest problem with Kyler Murray is I feel like there's going to be one hit that just takes him out. And he might, and I'm just going to say this, and Brandon brought this up, and I kind of agree with it. I wonder if Kyler Murray deserves the Patrick Mahomes treatment and why a team like the Giants or not the Jaguars, not the Redskins, or a team like the Broncos would actually make more sense because they could draft him and say, you're sitting your first year. You are sitting. You are going to, and maybe it's a sense of, hey, kid, bulk up a little bit. Get some muscle. Don't be that lanky 195 that I'm looking right here on Wikipedia. Bulk up a bit. Get some more muscle. Hit the weight room. You're sitting that first year instead of playing in front of an Eli or in front of a Joe Flacco. The question I want to kind of lean into is trading up for him.
Yeah.
Do you see a team trading up for Kyler Murray? Because to me, now that he's committed, I feel like there might be a team at either 1 or 2 or even 3 that goes ahead and takes him. And the thing we didn't talk about last week that we were saving for this mock draft, and I'll ask you about this team, the Lions, their GM, Bob Quinn, last week said in a quote, "We'll consider any position in the draft at any point in time, whether it's the 8th overall pick or we have multiple picks later in the draft. We're in a position now with the 8th overall pick that the whole draft board is really wide open. We're not going to really eliminate any prospects. In previous years, at least my last couple here, we've drafted anywhere from 16 to 22, I believe. It's a little bit different for us this year. There's a few more players that are going to be available, and if there's a quarterback out there that we deem could help us this year or in the future, we'll never close the door on that." Kind of leaning that they could trade up and get him or draft a quarterback at 8th overall. If Kyler Murray's there at 8, do the Lions take him?
Which is funny to me, too, because I actually, with that quote, read into them saying they're more likely to trade back
like,
than
hey,
they are to trade up.
There are so many people here who wants it.
They're basically sitting there saying, like, hey, maybe the Giants don't take a quarterback. Maybe the Jaguars don't take a quarterback. You could be a team to trade up with the Lions and get yourself a quarterback, be in the spot right after. That's what I think. I don't think that quote tells me they're trading up. The quarterback is, 31, 32 years old, Matthew Stafford?
But does it tell you that they would maybe take Kyler Murray at 8 if he was there?
No, because they have a 31, 32-year-old quarterback, and I don't think they're done with Matthew Stafford. I know we talked last week about how you were saying what a lot of people think. The Lions have wasted the career of Matthew Stafford, which I don't disagree with that. They kind of have. But he's still good enough. You can't. You're not going to pass on him now. You're not going to sit there and just kind of draft a Kyler Murray hoping that Matthew Stafford disappears. because you're more likely to get, in that case, a Jimmy Garoppolo situation where you're like, now what?
I will throw this out there, and it's not far off. What if they Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes him?
They could.
At number 8, they draft Kyler Murray. They let Stafford play the year out. Stafford gets traded at the end of this year because the thing that's interesting is, like you said, Stafford's 31 entering this year. Alex Smith was 34 when he got traded to the Redskins from Kansas City.
For sure. And I think that part of it, too, of course, is going to be the contract with Matthew Stafford. That's a big deal because Matthew Stafford demands quite a lot of money.
Well, he used to be the highest paid.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got 1, 2, 3 years left. He'll be an unrestricted free agent at the age of 35 years old. So if you draft a quarterback now, you're going to get close to that Jimmy Garoppolo situation where you have to move on at that certain point, which is okay.
You're not noticing a key fact, too, if you're looking at the Spot Rack page.
What's that?
What do you see after 2020?
The potential out?
The potential out. Where maybe so 2019 would be the year he plays over Kyler Murray.
They're not going to cut him.
No, I'm saying trade him, and then that other team goes, yeah, you know what? There's a potential out. If it doesn't work after 1 year, we can cut
And I
him.
think you would get more in a trade for Matthew Stafford than you would for Alex Smith. I just don't necessarily see it likely, especially if you're talking about Kyler Murray. And I hate to put it this way, but do you really think, we just talked about his size, do you really think that team is looking at the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings and saying, yeah, we want the small quarterback who doesn't weigh very much? Well, yes, we'll please take him. Matthew Stafford is a big fucking dude. He's a tank.
Or, I'm going to throw this out there, or are we looking at this the wrong way? This isn't them talking about Kyler Murray. This is them expecting Kyler to blow us away next week at the Combine so that he becomes the number 1 quarterback. Kyler doesn't fall to them. Dwayne Haskins falls to them.
But then we're assuming that he gets past the Giants and the Jaguars. To me, this is still just a very... and maybe the Jaguars have Nick Foles by this time, so that matters.
But what I'm saying is, look at... Not your mock draft, because you have the Jaguars and the Giants going with 2 quarterbacks. Look at my mock draft. Instead of Haskins going to the Giants, Kyler Murray has now shocked the world. The Giants take him. The Jags pass on a quarterback. Now that leaves the Lions with the decision, hey, we could take Dwayne Haskins, do the same thing. Sure. He sits under Matt Stafford, and then they trade Stafford after the first year.
It's possible, but I still think in that situation, if Kyler Murray wowed the world, then in that case... He's probably not he's not going to sit there at 6.
No.
If he really truly wowed the world, someone's trading above the Giants. Therefore, Giants get Dwayne Haskins still.
Well, and that's still another I think that this year could be one, depending on how the Combine goes and the pro days go.
Yeah.
And we get close to the draft. This could be a year where it's like either right before or on draft night, where it's like, hey, this team trades up with the Jets to 3. Then, 2 days later, wait, this team's at 2. Draft night, okay, this team's at 1. We beat you both.
All those things would still surprise me. This just is not a trade-up draft. There is not a clear-cut number 1 answer at quarterback.
It's only a trade-up draft if teams fall in love with one of the quarterbacks. And Kyler Murray, I will say, has fall in love potential, even though I wouldn't want my team to fall in love with him.
I think there's still going to be too many scouts and GMs out there that fall into the guy's short. I don't care about Russell Wilson and Drew Brees. This guy is short. And I think that's going to be a big thing for Kyler Murray.
Let me throw this out there then. Let's say nobody trades up for him. And I know you and I didn't have this going this way, but in a what-if kind of scenario, could you see John Gruden being the guy to go against that with how positively he's talked about Kyler Murray? Could he, I know we've talked about that in the past too, but could John Gruden be the guy to just go against what everyone else is thinking and take his guy?
I mean, he could because John Gruden's crazy and would go for something like that. Would totally.
Hey
go
man,
ahead.
I got a 10-year contract. You want a Manny Machado
9 years
contract?
left.
I got a 10-year contract too.
9 years left. He's gonna go ahead and sit there and say, you know,
We're
I
moving to
already
Las
got.
Vegas.
I've already got a good quarterback. I'll take a questionable quarterback. It doesn't matter if it's Dwayne Haskins or Kyler Murray, Drew Lock. I don't care who it is. It's a question mark. I'm going to take one of those and ignore the two key pieces of my team I traded away last year, where I could get either one of them a very good replacement right now. Yeah, I'm going to do that. That sounds like a John Gruden move.
Last team I want to throw out there, the Broncos.
Sure.
So both you and I have them going defense. I have them going kind of with a BPA-ish type pick with Ed Oliver, which their needs are clearly cornerback, a receiver.
Yep.
And then quarterback is still listed as a top need. I guess it's because Joe Flacco isn't a long-term solution. You have them going with the top need in corner. What is if you are in the war room or you are the main drafter for the Broncos, now that you have Joe Flacco on your team, where do you shift draft-wise at this point in the process at 10?
Well, I think you're sitting there pretty happy because you took care of one need, and you sit there and you say, the odds are we're going to have one of the top corners available. Greedy Williams is probably going to be gone. He might not go as high as I had him going with the Raiders because the Raiders might go with a defensive end instead. Even
with me at 8, he's right there, and there's no guarantee the Lions go with a corner.
So even if he is gone, the odds are pretty good you're going to get number 2. You're going to get the second best. And Byron Murphy, in my case here, is pretty damn good. I'm not upset if I end up with Byron Murphy. So to me, it's just a very simple. Broncos did what they needed to do in theory, on paper. They did what they needed to do to take care of one need in the free agency and leave this other one for a guy you can get and he can be a star for your team for years to come.
And the one thing I will say, and we're going to get to him in the second topic, is the one thing that bummed me out about Marquis Brown not running at the combine because of his surgery was, although Brandon was against this on the PTP segment, you should be able to check that out later today as it's coming out the same day as this segment. But I asked Brandon the question, I'm going to ask you in the next segment, of if Brown had a good combine performance, could he have been a top 10 wide receiver? And Brandon was like, no. There's no way that he's top 10 even with a great performance. I had always thought that right now he's about 12. If he would have gone to the combine, a team like the Broncos at 10 could have gone, hey, we're going to take him, because that's another thing I look at with the Broncos. And of course, you did this with the Bills, who could also do this.
Yep.
But I think the Broncos could as well. Who are they to say, hey, we just got Joe Flacco, let's get him a deep threat. Let's get him, even if Marquis is off the board, hey, let's get him a weapon, maybe a DJ Metcalf. Like, that is another position that they could go with. And I'm not sure if the Broncos, now that they have the quarterback solidified, have solidified or can solidify right now that, hey, we'll go defense, or hey, we'll go offense still.
Yeah, I still think it's pretty crucial for a Vic Fangio team to have a couple of things. They need to have their linebackers figured out, and they need to have their corners figured out, because they've already got the pass rush. Pass rush is taken care of. The Broncos are not worried about that. Those are your options. And when it comes to the team needs, linebacker, we're doing pretty good for the Broncos. Let's go ahead and get those kind of sure thing corners to help out this team. And that's what Vic Fangio likes to do.
Yeah, and another thing you got to look at is, like you mentioned with the corners, Brandon Roby, he's a free agent.
Yep.
And one of the reasons why I had them go at Oliver is they're going to have Damata Pico. He's going to be a free agent. So that means their nose tackle right now is Shelby Harris. So it's going to be crucial for them. With me, I feel like defense.
Ed Oliver's not going to be a nose tackle.
No. Well, I mean,
there's no way. It's not possible.
What, unless they're going to bump him out to defensive end, you think, and have him be a rusher?
He's nowhere near the size of a nose tackle. He's a tweener.
So you tell me, is he linebacker then for Vic Fangio?
I've already said,
or is it DE?
for me, he's a linebacker.
For Vic Fangio.
Yeah,
Is
he's
Fangio
a
gonna
defensive
make him a
end linebacker. I don't think he's big enough to truly play on the line in an NFL team.
Okay. Because I feel like, although I said I don't know which way they could go, I'm going to give my prediction. And with the Broncos as of late, I've been pretty good with predicting some of their moves. I think they're going to end up going defense just because it's Vic Fangio. Like, I know the head coach doesn't draft, but hey, we got a defensive head coach.
You got him for a reason.
Let's bolster that. Since we don't have to draft a quarterback, let's go ahead and bolster this. Anything in this top 10 that kind of sparked your mind as we were talking? Any final thoughts you got?
I'm ready for the next one.
And right there, you guys can hear, man, my voice is like, hey, I'm going to give up on you and give a weird crack there. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section about our top 10, about Kyler Murray, about the Lions, about the Broncos, about anything we talked about. Let us know what you think down below.